Ukraine needs the precision strikes capability.
On the Russian territory.
Also on the Russian territory from where Russia is attacking Ukraine. The initial commitment was for 1 million drones. It's not only FPV drones, the cheapest version, but actually more advanced drones to be able to also do the long range and medium range sort of proactive defense. I don't think the time plays for Russia.
Baiba, good to see you here in Kiev.
Thank you for having me, and good to see you again. Last time we met in Riga.
Yes, that's right. And as far as I know, that's your first visit, first ever visit to foreign country, and Ukraine is the most important for it.
Absolutely. I was appointed exactly 1 week ago, and this is my first bilateral visit, and it's to Ukraine, which is different from my predecessors because tradition is that we go to Estonia, Lithuania first, but of course, at the times of war and the need to be in Ukraine, the need to talk to Ukrainian leaders, the need to coordinate our action, my choice was to come to Ukraine first.
Recently, we've got the US decision to provide Ukraine with that security assistance, which is long awaited. Does it mean that our weapons problem is solved?
I don't want to say that it's solved or not solved, because what Ukraine needs is weapons, but Ukraine also needs political support, political unity from not only EU and NATO, but also wider world. Ukraine needs unity inside Ukraine in terms of the political parties' unity for the same aims, for the victory, so the projection of that internationally. Weapons is one element in the overall enabling of victory for Ukraine. And I don't know what is enough for that.
At the same time, we see that what we get from our partners is not enough to win the war. So it means that some kind of narrative should be changed. What is changeable? What can be a game changer on a battlefield?
As the Canadian author and philosopher Margaret Macmillan has written about the wars, when starting the war, there's always expectation of a short, victorious war. And almost never it happens. So the move to the long war means entirely different tactics, strategies, attrition, resilience, the ability to continue and to believe in victory, and to have that strength, inner and outer strength for that. And that's why I'm here also to show my support, to show Latvia's support to Ukraine. The other countries in Europe, around the world, need to provide not only money, but not only weapons, but also money. Implementation of sanctions, there is a whole comprehensive action that Ukraine itself, but also many countries in the world that support Ukraine need to take. It's not just about the military fight itself.
Does time play for Ukraine or is it for Russia?
I don't think the time plays for Russia. Ukraine getting the military and cognitive and other support, political and all the legal sanction support, it certainly plays for Ukraine's victory. But having said that, it's very painful. I don't say it lightly, is that it takes time, but it costs lives, it costs health, it costs Ukraine more than anything else. Environment damage, it's horrible.
To be frank, that is what I'm afraid of, and not only me. That our friends and partners think that time plays for Ukraine, and then everything can be kept as it goes. Because my vision, my suggestion is that we have to change something. I don't know, to have some support for strikes on Russian territory, something new. Don't you think so?
I fully agree. Ukraine needs not only air defenses or munition. Ukraine needs the precision strikes capability. Ukraine
on the Russian territory.
Also on the Russian territory from where Russia is attacking Ukraine, because that's covered by international law. So not only Ukraine's sovereign territory, but indeed from those places where Russia is attacking Ukraine. Ukraine needs long-range fires. Ukraine needs integrated air missile defense that involves air-to-air capabilities. So that is what is indeed being provided, not only by the US package, but also F-16s, pilots being trained, long-range drones, ATAMACs, and so on and so forth. So there is that sort of capability coming. It has arrived, some of it already, and it has been provided. But again, it's all under international law. In that respect, if there are objects from where Russia is attacking Ukraine, Ukraine has a right to attack them.
By now, we see that our partners put requirements that Western weapon which is provided to Ukraine should not be fired outside of Ukrainian territory. Do you see that this approach is changing?
It could change. I mean, there are countries that have provided those weapons without conditions to Ukraine.
Zora?
Correct. And there is, I mean, not everything is said aloud, and better that it's not said aloud in certain times, but that there is effect on the battlefield. So indeed, there are various choices, whether saying things loud or just doing the right thing.
You have already mentioned air defense and the need for Ukraine to deal with it differently. Now we see that we are really lacking of both launching facilities and rockets. Is there a way to change it somehow? I don't know, by patrolling our skies with F-16s, F-35s, with other jets piloted by European pilots?
I don't think those decisions have been made in such a way that European pilots would be flying in Ukrainian skies. I haven't seen anything like that. The F-16 decisions, training of Ukraine's pilots, air defense launchers, various air defense, short range, medium range, those have been made. There are more available, so it's both practical work by Ukraine, by allies, by Secretary General of NATO, other officials working with the countries to provide more of the air defenses, because it's not only about Kiev, it's also about Kharkiv, it's about Odessa, it's about other big cities in Ukraine that need to be protected.
There are discussions, and Ukrainian authorities even ask, or I cannot say require, but at least ask our partners to close the sky or to help us to protect the sky. Is that feasible in mid-term future?
As I mentioned before, those decisions, I haven't seen any national or sort of joint decision of sending troops or pilots in a direct way. The discussions take place all the time, but again, we only can talk when the decisions are made.
Will Russia stop in Ukraine?
Well, Russia has to stop in Russia. So it's not about being stopped in Ukraine. Russia has to be pushed out of Ukraine.
There are discussions whether Putin would dare to attack even NATO countries. How do you see? Is that realistic? Does your intelligence show that it can happen one day?
Currently, there is no direct military threat by Russia to any of NATO countries. Hypothetically, everything is possible. I mean, hypothetically, theoretically, speculations exist about all types of scenarios, and that's why it's important to prepare to make sure that both not only the plans of defending people and NATO territory and NATO's people from the first centimeter, first inch, that not only plans are there, but also the capabilities are there, that defense spending is there, that the force structure, adjustments, exercises, it's a whole readiness package that has to be there. Authorities for the secures, the national armed forces. So there is a sort of big change also in NATO taking place as we speak. And indeed, defense spending is rising considerably, which also gives more opportunity to provide aid to Ukraine.
Till recently, I used to hear from our European friends particularly from Western European countries, that it is just impossible that Russia would attack NATO one day, so we should not consider it as a real possibility. Do you see that it is changing?
Well, the NATO's approach changed already in 2014 after Russia attacked Ukraine for the first time. Because what we saw was not only the capability, but also the intent to use armed forces in an overt and covert way. So NATO changed its military strategy from out-of-area operations to back to the collective defense of the territories and people. So that's why the new NATO military strategies, that's why the deterrence and defense concept in Euro-Atlantic areas, these regional plans, defense plans, and that is with one very clear intention: to deter and ensure that no misunderstanding on the Russian part takes place.
We used to see that Russia normally starts from hybrid attacks. And I think that for NATO countries it is much more realistic. And День Победы, 9 Maya, is approaching. Are you preparing for something?
Security services, I think, in all the Baltic states are aware of various signals, various efforts. The cyber attacks have been taking place. The sort of information war has not stopped really since 2014 and even before. Attacks on people, dissidents, opponents, the intimidation, corruption. Those are all active measures that were part of the USSR's toolkit, and now it's part of Russia's. So what is important is that people are aware about it, that very clearly there is the ability to recognize it, prevent it, to know it, but also to discover and put it to sort of light to ensure that it's known and unmasked.
In Latvia, do you expect to have something on 9th May?
I cannot answer that question. It's still a while away, so we will see. We will be celebrating Europe Day. We celebrate the end of the Second World War on the 8th of May, like the rest of Europe. And Russia for years has been trying to present that it's 9th of May. That is very particular sort of Russian celebration. So we have been very clear that 8th of May is what we celebrate, commemorate, mark. It's, something that is important for whole of European continent. 9th May is Europe Day. That's the day when EU foundations were laid. Russia, as discussed, the sort of variety of different methods are used to try to undermine trust in institutions, that despite the fact that now we have grown so fast since entering the EU, NATO, that we are safe and secure and very prosperous compared to where we were, that everything is bad, that people shouldn't trust the government, that people shouldn't trust the parliamentary parties. So there are lots of campaigns going on, and that's not necessarily about Ukraine or Latvia supports Ukraine or NATO, but it's very much about the internal debates and trying to enlarge the gaps between various groups.
Let me end up with Latvian support to Ukraine. I really appreciate your decision to pledge quarter percent annually of your GDP to Ukrainian defense. What would you focus on? We know that you are leading drone coalition. Maybe you can share some expectations. What can it change? Maybe some figures.
They are aligned on what Ukraine needs, so it's a sort of dynamic alignment. So it's not only FPV drones, the cheapest version, but actually more advanced drones, medium range, different types of things that are needed. So finding those, if necessary, to purchase, or if necessary, finding equipment to put on them, producing new ones, designing new ones, all of that is happening together with our Ukrainian partners. There is also now the Drone Coalition Fund, where countries have pledged money to enable, to provide those drones. So there's quite a bit of work ongoing currently to ensure that Ukraine gets that. Because as I said, Ukraine needs those capabilities not only for reconnaissance or individual attacks, but actually to be able to also do the long range and medium range sort of proactive defense. The initial commitment was for 1 million drones until mid-2025. Again, if it's just the cheaper part of drones, that is one thing, but actually it's about more advanced things. So we'll see whether it's 1 million or a different number, but it will depend what Ukraine needs. Yes, we will spend 0.25% on military support to Ukraine. All the Baltic states have committed to that. We have also asked other countries. There are other countries who will do that. As I said, those countries who don't have their own Patriots or their own other equipment have money, and they can put that money towards buying certain things, whether munition or launchers or missiles or other. So it's practical work that is being done to ensure that not only this year but also next year, if necessary, if Russia has not been beaten, that Ukraine has both the support politically and the international unity, but also the military support.
Thank you very much for your support to Ukraine and for support of Latvia to my country, and we will definitely win.
We will win, and that support is throughout the society in Latvia. It's for rehabilitation of the soldiers, it's for return of Ukrainian children, return of prisoners. We provide enormous amount of support to the energy sector, the generators, transformers, switching stations, even a locomotive for the city of Hyveron to enable it to function. That locomotive is a sort of self-sufficient power station, so providing the electricity for the whole of city. So there is a variety of support that is provided on everyday basis. So it's genuine. It's a whole country support to Ukraine.
Thank you.